buttoned up.
I'm very relaxed, as you can tell. I've been stretching.
Righto. Mate, Matt, what do we call you, Willie?
Oh, fuck, whatever. I fucking don't care. I've just spent 7 years in the army. You can call me dickhead, lid, whatever. I'm in. But most people refer to me as Willie.
Because you're a civvy now, aren't you, as of 2 days ago?
Yeah, as of 2 days ago. So you might get the juicy insight on now the government's not breathing down my neck on everything I say and do, and phone calls I fucking everyone as soon as I post anything.
Mate, we got the inside loop. We got the what do we got? The exclusive with fucking Willie.
Ah, somewhat.
So take us through it, bro. You were a grunt in the pre your fucking rise to unfortunate fame. What's your service history so people get to know the fucking man, the myth, the legend?
Yeah, so I got into the army late 2014, straight out of school. I was still like real hungover from my year 12 like graduation. Rocking up to Kapuka, just fucked, like this is shit, to getting screamed at. And then you go through the whole Kapuka, Singo sort of staff post down 7th Battalion. Did pretty much in the first 12 months with like my CFA and DFSW course and whatever. And then in 2017, deployed on FPE 7 to Kabul in Afghanistan. Came home, did a bit of traveling, whatever, with that bulk trip cash. And then, yeah, pretty much came back to headaches and whatever. Went to the med centre being called a linger from the boys. Like, oh, fuck off, mate. It's Pack March Friday. No wonder you've suddenly got a headache. Fuck off, Willie. Go down there. Next thing, I'm in a fucking CAT scan machine, and that afternoon in an MRI tube, like all this shit going down to find a brain tumour. And that sort of kicked off all that shit, and now I'm out sitting with you lads.
So what do you do, mate? Like what at that point? Because I mean, you're a straight shooter, and you've documented your journey through it all pretty honestly and openly, mate. Was your life going where you wanted to go prior to the diagnosis, and like were you killing it, or were you sort of floundering around? And then at the point that you like get the diagnosis, what was going through your fucking head, mate?
Yeah, so like I'd say everything was on like such a fucking good track. Like I just deployed, and then I'd spent 5 weeks overseas in Europe, visiting churches and shit, not meeting girls on Kentucky and fucking around. Not as young diggers do. But then like I'd pretty much spent the last 18 months training for 2018 SASR selection. App was in, everything, was ready to rock and roll. Sort of really peeking into that. And then, I went for this, initial just, hey, I want to get some drugs for my headache, because it was in the same week, it was early February February 18, when codeine became like a drug you need a prescription for. And me being like, well, this headache is getting, covered by codeine, but I don't want to get DT'd and then get booted out of the army. So I'll go and see a doctor. And it was really just a spiral of just luck that ended up actually finding this tumor. But everything was on like such a good trajectory. And I probably didn't realize how good of a trajectory I was on until everything sort of fell to shit. Like if you asked me then, how's everything going? I would have been like, well, I'm not fucking fit enough, and this is shit, and this person doesn't like me. I would have had, other stuff. But now I look back, I'm like, shit, if I could just relive the days then, that would have been fucking heaps better.
And then, so at that point, because I mean, the whole idea of the ISS podcast is finding guys who are high performing, have suffered through and shown resilience and are moving forward. And this is the exact thing that we want to showcase. But did you go downhill, or did you stay positive, or did you were you like, well, fuck it, I got brain cancer, I'm done, I'm just going to sink myself in the bottom of a bottle? Or were you like, no, fuck it, I'm going to go forward?
There's a little bit of that. Look, in the beginnings is fucked, because you don't know. It could be anywhere from you've got 2 weeks to live through to 20 years, but until those initial tests come back, you don't know shit. So within, say, 2 weeks of my initial scan, I was on a hospital bench, getting the biopsy, getting my head cut open. I've got like a 50-cent piece hole cut out of my brain. Out of my skull to take a biopsy of the tumour and whatever. And I woke up from that surgery. It's pretty, like any neurosurgery is pretty fucking traumatic on the body because they're prodding around in your fucking head. And I woke up from that thinking I'm going to get like the exact outline of what the fuck's going on. It wasn't till I sort of woke up, came to, and the doctor's like, yeah, so like 6 to 8 weeks, mate, we'll have your results back because I've got to go to the lab and do all this shit. That 6 to 8 weeks was fucked. I had no cares because I was like, well, I think your mind, or at least my mind, went, it's going to be the worst way. And those weeks of just hanging in limbo is worse than having bad or good news. Like, it's just terrible. Because at least if he's like, hey, you got 2 weeks to live, you'd be like, fuck this, I'm going to Mykonos. Where you're just hanging in limbo, you don't know what to do. So that was, that was pretty bad. And my memory on that whole time, I don't know if it's the stress and anxiety ruined my memory of it or the chemotherapy following. Because I know the chemo has a massive effect on your brain and what they call chemo brain memory. But thinking back to it, that was just like a blur of like casual sex and drinking and fucking around. Luckily, I was at that point still cashed up from Afghan, so that was probably a big help. But yeah, it wasn't until, those diagnoses came through that you start, piecing your life somewhat back together and do what you can.
So you weren't like running orange lights and going to the casino and like getting fucking lifelong loans out and shit. Like, well, fuck it.
Yeah, well, thank fuck I didn't do that. But like the funniest one I say is I like in that like time I was like I'm not brushing my fucking teeth. Like you brush your teeth so your teeth are healthy for the next dental appointment, and then when you're 60 you've got teeth and shit. And I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. Like, what's the point of that? Like, it's just not happening. And I'm like, I'm gonna eat whatever the fuck I want. I'm not doing this shit. It's just like, but like, I think it was, I'd say it's still within a healthy range of like reactions to that sort of news. Like you can't ever expect anyone, particularly a young man, I'll use high performing, maybe high performing on the piss, but you can't really expect a really fantastic, like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and eat vegan and be spiritual and do yoga and shit, because it wouldn't fucking work for me anyway.
So, mate, I've got an honesty question, hand on the heart. Does it work for or against picking up chicks? Is it a pickup line to let them know I've got cancer?
Have you heard the whole Tinder fucking story about me?
No, mate.
So, I got in trouble from work about this because I was on the 7 p.m. project telling this fucking story. But so within like a couple of weeks of my diagnosis, pretty fucking quick, I changed my Tinder bio to I've got brain cancer, so I'm literally dying to meet you, not here for anything long term. And like, so in the first like week, I was getting fucking abused by chicks. You can't fucking write that, blah blah blah. And then it would come back to me like, no, I'm serious. And they're like, oh fuck, and sort of got them on the back foot. So then I had to update, like my third photo in was like an MRI scan. So then you pick up like all the like doctors and nursing students. So yeah, my in that initial like 12 months, my sex life went through the roof. I say, if you want to have a better sex life, get brain cancer. It's fucking good.
Mate,
don't recommend it. That's not worth it.
Let's go.
Because the army, we had a bloke, we went to New Zealand with a dude. We sailed, before I got out of the army, we sailed to New Zealand on an exercise on one of the boats. And we had a young bloke who was, Webb, his name is. He's still in Wanara. And he was like, oh man, I'm sick. I feel sick all the time and I'm crook in the guts. I'm like, you're just being weak, mate. You got seasickness. Fuck off. Yeah. And this went on for 2 weeks. He's like, and then he was laying crawled up in a ball in his bunk. And we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? He's like, nah, I'm really bad. Like, go to the RAP, mate. You might as well. He went there and he got helicoptered off the fucking boat. And he had like terminal stomach, liver, cancer that had spread through his body, around his spine.
It was like, I think there was when he first got it, there was only 5 people in Australia that had that form of cancer. Then one of the boys caught up with him recently, and he was like, So how's that going? Being one of the 5, and he's like, there's only 3 now.
Yeah, fucking race is on, mate.
But the army looked after. He's still in the army, mate, and he had the option. So army looked after him and said, "Hey, look, what do you want to do? You go on sick leave and never have to come into work, mate." And he's like, "No, if I don't come into work, I will go mental." And I think he's actually in remission now, mate, or to the point where the tumors are shrinking and they can operate.
Yeah.
What was your experience with army? Noting that there's a lot of people out there who play the victim and are quick to jump on army to bash them about everything. But what's your experience in the space?
My experience has been like overall fucking very positive. But there's sort of 2 sides to it. The green side of like the army and then the civvy medical side. And I guess then there's a third fucking element who's then the rehab side of that link between the green and the fucking doctors. Rehab fucked. The green side, awesome. Like it was literally like from the commanding officer fucking down through everyone. Like anything I needed was on fucking hand. Doctors, in the fucking medical center, they were awesome as well. It was where we ran into the problems was the rehab side, because you got to remember in the beginning I'm finding out all the shit is too. Like I didn't even know what an oncologist was, and that rehab side really failed me. At least in the beginning, really failed me on finding out what I needed, who I needed to see. Whatever. It should have been handballed off to, hey, Army Rehab doesn't do this. We do sore backs and shin splints. We don't do fucking brain cancers. It should have been handballed to the Cancer Council or someone like that initially and gone, hey, this is fucking above us.
So you didn't get referred to physio for like a physio program, return to work?
Fucking literally, it's like that. Like it was like, we want you to do some fucking yoga and shit. I'm like, that's not going to fix me. Like, fuck me. But like the green side, like, and I still keep in touch with all, I've gone through a couple of CEOs, whatever, but all of them, like, closely, and all the boys, like the support of the boys is always, that's where Army lives, breathes. It's always what it's always been about. It's always about the boys. That was just awesome. The story I tell was, so my birthday is March 10th, and I first was diagnosed. So I got the headaches was early February, and then March 9th was my first appointment with an oncologist. And I didn't know what an oncologist was until I Googled it in his office, being fucking a cancer doctor. I was like, oh, fuck. I get more serious than I thought then. Went in, must have put in found out the news, and must have put in like the inbox, like, hey boys, yeah, this is what's happening. And they planned like a surprise piss up for me that night. For my birthday the next day, would have been my 22nd. And the fuckers changed it from Willie's birthday party to Willie's death party. So it all up, like, whatever the fucking drive is from like Tea Tree Plaza in Adelaide to Largs Bay, it's like 35 minutes. I'd had like 35 minutes to dissect the news, to walking into this surprise, here's a fucking beer, it's Willie's death party. But that shit, it just made it like, I'm not above taking the piss out of it. Like, it's just one of those fucking things. And that support was always there, but the Army had always done me well. And medical, you need to be fucking very proactive with the medical system. They can get you anything you need. But you need to hound them about it, like with your GP or whatever, like, well, no, I need this referral today. I need this, I need this, I need this. Because it's doable. It's just very fucking hard. There's a lot of guys, particularly, I'm fucking incredibly grateful, a lot of guys looking out for me too. I got fucked around once with an appointment getting canned. I was going to get canned because I couldn't drive after my brain surgery for like 6 months. And the commanding officer at the time he just walked into the med center, and apparently I was off work. But apparently he just walked in, was just lighting cunts up. Like he just walked in like, nah, I don't give a fuck who's in here. I'm not leaving until Willie's got all his shit booked to go to this appointment, blah, blah, blah. So I was looked out for from the top. And there's a lot of people who I don't know who to thank too. I know when I first went saw Dr. Charlie Teo in Sydney, I walked in and he was like, "Oh, Willie, I've got a call off, one of your friends today over at Perth. He told me to look out for you, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "I'm not from fucking Perth." He's like, "Oh, some of the, I've operated on some of the boys who are over there from like blast injury, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" And some random fucking cat must have, dropped fucking Teo a line, being like, "Hey, look after this fucking floor." So, yeah, I can't. It'd be very hypocritical of me to sort of bash on the military system because they looked after me fucking beyond belief.
So what do you do? The dark humor, black humor stuff, has that been one of your coping mechanisms?
Oh, it has been like the primary coping mechanism from fucking. Well, I think it developed, fucking. Or I've always had it, but it develops through your army career. It's the same coping mechanism everyone has, and then it sort of just became that. I guess even more so when I was diagnosed. And I think it comes to the point of like, if you can't joke about something, you haven't truly come to terms with it. And I did a podcast recently where I was telling the guy, like, you need to look inside yourself and go, what do I not find funny? Like, at what point, if someone says something about me to me, do I go, nah, that's fucking unacceptable? And I'm like, they're the things you should work on because you're obviously not fucking comfortable with it. Like, if you've got if you carry a little bit of weight, no one gives a fuck. But if you can't joke about like, "Oh, I got fucking titties," like, you're not comfortable with it, and you should change that. Fucking get in a treadmill or whatever. And I sort of came to terms with like, if me and all the boys can take the piss out of this, I've sort of come to terms with it. And I'm willing to take the piss. Like the boys, when I started chemo, because we had another piss up like the night before I started chemo, which was a massive fucking regret. If anyone does chemo, don't get drunk the night before because your organs are going to be in fucking the hurt locker, and then you just fuck.
Is that what the first thing your doctors would tell you, mate? You're about to start chemo, just stay off the piss?
Yeah, fucking A. But then like the next day,
well.
yeah, fucking A. But I'm there like getting like I'm chemoing up and shit. And the boys send me a link, and like the boys are at my house where I used to live, and they've put all my shampoo and conditioner and shit on Gumtree for sale. And I'm like, you fucking pricks. I didn't end up losing my hair anyway. Like I thinned out a lot, but I didn't lose it. But like, I just think it's such like a grounding thing. I think humor, in many cases, look at anything in the military and whatever, and particularly military stuff, humor gets people through so much shit. And it is a fantastic coping mechanism. But there's always that serious side of like any one of those lads doing that. With multiple of them, I've broken down and had, fucking pretty heavy conversations and everything. But it's just, there's always time to take the piss.
Yeah, fucking oath. I mean, I can only relate, and the boys listening to this could only relate to being overseas. Everybody takes the piss out of potentially getting blown up, being like centimeters away from getting blown up or dying, and everyone's laughing about it. And that's how you get through, like going out again the next day. But then when someone does actually get knocked, you're like, all right, there's a time. It's not a long time before you start taking the piss out of again, but there is a time where you're like, all right, let's be fucking real about it. But I think I could imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, I could imagine nothing worse than all your close mates thinking they've got to walk on eggshells around it when being real and taking the piss just makes it like everything goes on and it's normal.
Well, that's the thing you look for with a diagnosis like mine is then normality again. I think the hardest thing about a diagnosis similar to mine isn't the diagnosis itself. It's you've walked in that doctor's office as someone, and in that 15 minutes, your whole life has changed. Every single thing has changed. Like, there's not one piece of your life that isn't influenced by this 10-minute conversation. And that change is just so fucked that if then the boys, because I've always just been like purely just one of the boys, start walking on eggshells around you, that's something else that's changed. I want things to stay the same. And I was writing an email to a guy today. I get a lot of stuff about like, hey, my friend's being diagnosed. How should I go about it? And there isn't a way to go about it particularly. You just need to be your mate. You need to be what you were yesterday is today. Nothing's changed except for this, small fucking throwing fucking grenade in your head or whatever it is, but you're still mates. You know, there's a place and time for a serious, like, hey, mate, how you fucking going? Then there's a place and time for walking in like, what up, dickhead, here's a beer, fucking whatever. There's always a time for, you know, you look for things that haven't changed. It's such a weird thing knowing, and that's where I was in the beginning diagnosed with PTSD from that appointment. And I was sitting there with my psych being like, fuck off, mate, because my oncologist referred me to see a psychologist because he saw, I think, a vast change in my behaviours through my appointments. When I was seeing him like 3 times a week in the initial things, he referred me out. And the psychologist basically talking through me through the appointment and being like, you've got PTSD. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, you know, I didn't get blown up. None of the boys were shot, you know, whatever. He's like, no, not from that. He's like, what would you do if you get shot at? I'm like, oh, you know, the typical fucking run down, crawl, observe, aim, fire piece. And what do you do if you get blown up? This. What happens if you're at a car crash, someone loses their leg? He goes, those are all scenarios which you've probably played through your head before, which you've trained to do. And, you know, you've got some coping mechanisms to do. He said, you as a young man have never even had the thought that you're going to be pulled into a sterile white fucking doctor's office and told that you've got something growing in you that we can't do anything about, it's going to kill you. He said that is more traumatic to some people and you than anything else fucking would be. He's like, don't think that isn't trauma as much as crashing your car is trauma. And he's like, you know, this is long-term trauma too. It's not, you know, the incident's happened, you've put a tourniquet on, the incident's done and dusted in 60 minutes. He's like, this goes on. And it was such a weird realization of, I guess, different, because I always thought of traumatic trauma, you know, as it's, you know, PTSD is something like, oh, you've been blown up. But him going, no, you know, in the army, you've trained for all these scenarios to happen and anything between that. But never would you think at 21, 22, you could pull in and this happened. And that was a big sort of realization for me then to, you know, think about what I needed to do to come more to terms with it.
Because so, I mean, we've got a phrase or an acronym because we're obviously a veteran-founded organisation, so we love acronyms. But so we did a study and we got TRIP, right? Tribe, routine, identity, purpose were the 4 biggest things for mental health decline. But one of them was identity. So, like, how do you identify now as, are you Willie? Willie's got brain cancer? Are you Willie the fucking AJ? Are you Willie the fucking celebrity? What's the...
It depends who you ask. Because Williams and Willie's a fairly common fucking last name, around the unit, I was always Cancer Willie. It's just like, which Willie are you talking to? Because there's 2 of us. There's Mechanized Willie and Cancer Willie. Like, it's Cancer Willie, and you hear all, like, the new young subbies, but you can't fucking say that. It's like, yeah, you fucking can. Amongst the boys, it's always OAM Willy to take the piss out of me.
Yeah, are we supposed to be calling you sir, or what's the...
Well, we told all the new lids they had to call me His Excellency and salute me. So I'm fucking rolling to work, like, the day after my parade, and there's all these brand new fucking lids still in, like, all the cams of shame, like the DPCUs, fucking throwing me boxes. And it was like, yeah, Your Excellency. Like, what the fuck? We kept it going for like a week until like one of the O's was just like, you guys can't keep this shit up. Like and you burn yourself here. Like, fucking funny, sir. Look, my identity, you know, always was as just a digger. You know, that changed a couple of days ago getting out. But, you know, I might have done some, you know, shit. And, you know, there's that element that I have a semi-large following and I'm, you know, what, but like, at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. It's always just being on one of the boys at work. I was always just, you know, digger Williams. That's just who it was. And that identity, I guess, is getting, you know, changed a little bit now, getting out. And I guess I'll be on a research again, you know, finding where I fit in the city world. And I think that was actually one of the hardest things because I went off work for 13 months doing chemo. Because I did 12 rounds of chemotherapy over 13 months. It was real fucked. But I came back, and you guys know what it's like in grunt units. The overturn of guys is very fucking quick. And in that time, you know, so many of the boys I served with had left. And the ones who knew me sort of knew of me but didn't know me. And I think when I first came back into the companies, I was tiptoed around a little bit. It was like, oh, it's fucking Willie or whatever. And that was one of the shittest things. Was it was sort of somewhat special treatment. And it was like, fuck. And it wasn't something I wanted at all. But that overturned pretty fucking quick. But yeah, I think that identity thing, it's definitely changing now. And it'll be funny to see where I end up. But as far as like, fucking celebrity Willies, the absolute last fucking thing I'd want to do.
Mate, the way you just explained that, I think you're already leaps and bounds. I mean, obviously your scenario is fairly unique, but you're leaps and bounds ahead of where most people are on their transit. You've been out for 2 days, and you've already seen that what your identity is needs to change now, because you have what your words were. I've got to find where I fit in Civi world. I'm like, that is one of the biggest problems with a lot of the lads when they're getting out, guys and girls, is getting out, not even thinking about where they fit in the Civi world, and just going, I am a veteran now. And that is my only focus as far as re-identifying. I was a soldier, and now I'm a veteran. And that's a massive downfall. Like, being a veteran's part of your identity, definitely. But if that is your only identity moving forward, that's where a lot of people get tripped up.
Well, that shits me off massively. Because, like, I'm not sure if you guys have watched the most recent YouTube video I did. But I don't want, and I sort of talk about identity a little bit in losing, because it was, the video is called like My Last Day in the Army, or My Last Day in Uniform maybe. But like, it's all about like, I want the army to be a chapter in my life and have other ones written. Of course, that first, say it's the first chapter, that influences fucking everything going forward, as high school's a fucking big chapter too. It's all influential, but I don't want to be that fucking guy who all he's ever done is fucking army shit. There's some fucking funny memes about it, like, mate, you served 10 years ago for fucking 5 years, and it's all you've ever done. Fuck off. I want in another, because I served just over 6 years. I hope that down the path, it's, I introduce myself as, I do this, not I don't identify and have everything I do in my life as what I used to do and who I used to be. It's always going to be a fucking big part, but like, I sort of want to move on from that and be like, look, always have big ties in the vet community, and some I can use my sort of following to influence, better outcomes for vets. But it will never be that's all I do. I start a fucking some bullshit brand or whatever, just charging future vets to do shit. Like, it's just bullshit. So I hope to change into a new identity.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you go to high school and you play on the high school football team. You don't then go be a plumber and be like, yeah, no, I was an ex-high school football player. I was ex-year 12. Or people change jobs in Civi Street and they go from being a plumber to an electrician. They're like, yeah, mate, what's going on? I go, I used to be an ex-plumber, mate. Like, no, you're an electrician. That's who.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a funny one. I think it's just, I think particularly with like grunts, it's probably the coolest thing you'll ever do. It's sort of like, oh fuck, I want to be remembered for the better times, and it's always that you look back on things as better than it used to fucking be. I guarantee if you could transport yourself back into the breezeways somewhere, you'd be sitting down going, boys, this is fucked. I'm bored out of my brain. I've got no Tinder swipes left. Like, this is shit. But you look back on it like, oh, this was fucking awesome. Like, it's you got to sort of be realistic about it too. Like, the army's fucking awesome. People had the best times, but you left for a reason. It's one of those things. But you always look back on things as better, and it's the good old days and the glory days for a lot of people. And I hope that my glory days still lie ahead of me somehow.
Yeah, fucking oath. And that is amplified on deployments. Everyone gets on trips. The first month and a half, you're good, you're loving it. And then after about a month and a half, 2 months, everyone's like, fuck, I can't wait to go home. And then a year and a half later, you look back and you're like, fuck, I wish I was back over. And you're like, do you really, mate? Like, I'm not sure, because most of that trip you were whinging.
Oh, yeah, fucking oath. Wow, you're not a digger if you ain't whinging about something.
Correct. That's probably part of the identity piece that needs to change when people get out too. The whinging comes with us. should
Yeah.
just stay in the army, I think.
I see it a lot with guys, you know, like I have a large following and like there's just some stuff I'm like, and I guess some people like message me with like, you know, almost that victim and veteran means the same thing. And like, you know, I haven't been through a lot of the shit some like guys have at all. But it's sort of like, yeah, I know, but like, you know, we were taught and like the whole fucking idea of like military training is to not then do this. You've like automatically victimized yourself with it. That's where I flat out refused to go into rehab platoon at work. I'm getting in trouble here, but I may have looked at,
the army.
but they all still are. I may have looked at one of the senior commanders in a room full of people and gone, if you fucking put me over there, I will kill myself. And I was like, you can't say that. I'm like, no, I'm saying it because it's fucking true. I'm not fucking doing it. Because it was like, no, yes, the rehab platoon sits there for a reason. And you know, there's a vast majority of guys are there to do the right thing. But there are those more cancerous fuckers than me sitting there just on fucking Lizzie's paycheck doing fucking nothing but seeking a pension once they're out. And I was like, no, if I'll either be on sick leave until you med separate me, or you'll put me back into one of the rifle companies doing whatever as just one of the boys. And, you know, we had to compromise because Army Medical wouldn't lift my restrictions because I still wanted to be in the field with the boys, you know, doing shit. But, you know, we compromised and may have twisted some arms here and there to do some shit. But, you know, that mentality, because it's just the easy path. And it's something that's not right in the Army is that you can, you know, just not do shit and still collect the same paycheck as the lad who's doing fucking everything. And that was just not where I wanted to be. And same with my med separation. I could have pushed it easily another 12 months. But I was like, look, I'm not giving back as much as the Army's giving me. It's time for me to pull the trigger, leave, and then do something else.
Mate,
that's good.
You're a poster boy for the anti-victimhood mentality, mate, and it's getting, like you're saying, it's fucking gross, mate. The level of victimization that people are, like I said, veteran to victim, and it's what we're standing for is own your circumstances, and you're an absolute bastion for that, mate.
Except if I want to go to the pub though, because when I cash in my victim card all the fucking time with the boys. Because I'll like, you know, it'll be like a Friday afternoon. I'll like message one of the lads like, hey, let's go to the pub. Like, oh no, I don't feel it, man. And I'll straight on be like, you know, I've got brain cancer. I don't know when my next Friday's coming. Fuck them. If you've got the cards, cash them in. It's the only one I've got.
Do they come?
Yeah, fucking no. I think they've given up on me now, but yeah, in the beginning worked fucking brilliantly.
Good.
So at the point where you're doing the whole chemo stuff, were you allowed to smoke weed during chemo? Not in the Army? Was it medical? Do we do that?
Look, you know, like I didn't. Hand on heart, fucking didn't. But you're not allowed to under military medical. In civvy medical, you can take CBD oil, which I also didn't. My take on it, which is, I guess, a little bit, I'd say, beyond the level of reading a Google fucking Fiverr article, was that your CBD oils and weed and whatever doesn't, it's to supplement existing treatments. So everyone knows chemo makes you incredibly sick, primarily with nausea, to the point where you can't do it anymore. My understanding, talking to my oncology team, I should say, is more people did CBD oil and weed and whatever to allow themselves a more comfortable ride through chemo and do more of it. So weed is not going to kill your fucking tumour. No matter what Google said, it's not happening. But it may reduce the effect of traditional treatment. So then instead of doing 2 months of chemo, you can push to 3. And it's, you know, something to supplement them. Now I have not much, I have zero experience in the area. And it's something that you're like, well, you know, why not? I would employ anyone if they're going through that shit of, you know, it can't hurt you. I remember fucking been an angry dickhead sort of. People would have thought I was a woe too. His wife had left me, walking into chemo all fucked up in me like shit gown and whatever. And there was dickheads out the front hooked up to chemo smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, you selfish fucking pricks. Like, and what pissed me off was I'd walk into the chemo ward's fucking traumatic. It looks like the start of Saving Private Ryan, but with all these people fucked up from cancer. But like, then there's me fucking cruising in. But then there's like kids there who have like tumours that they will not beat, trying to get a couple more months of fucking life, doing fucking the worst treatment in the world. And then there's these fucking assholes out the front who have lung cancer from just smoking 2 packs a day, hooked up to a chemo bag and haven't bothered giving up cigarettes. It's shit like that. And I'm like, nah, if you want to give yourself the best hopes and you're doing all this chakra shit and it's in the best way of, in the good light of trying to beat this, then absolutely go for it. That includes weed and diet and all that. The medical evidence isn't there officially. There is evidence, but it's not done yet through the correct sort of chains. And that is one of the things I actually funded, back on the question of, I guess, medical marijuana, CBD, THC. I shouldn't say funded. I gave some money into the funding. So Charlie Teo in Sydney was doing the world's first medical trials of, I'll fuck up the name here, but it was like direct contact, like CBD, THC on tumours. So instead of just smoking a joint, sitting around going, this chemo's not too bad, it was a brain operation where they will cut you open, crack your skull fucking open, and whatever they've pulled out of this, put it like on these wafers that they put on the fucking tumour, so it's like directly on it. Now, there's all the evidence. You can have all the evidence in the world of this, but unless it has gone through the correct medical trials, chains, all this shit, you're not going to get it on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme, and it's not going to be a thing. So he's like, I know we're jumping through those hoops, but the hoops exist to then get it there. And it's going to be 5 or 10 years. So that was one of the things we raised in 2019. The money all went into primarily that trial. There was a few other trials, but primarily that trial that is sort of still in the works now, because they're waiting for people to die to get more information back.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a long history of cancer in my family. I lost my sister to it. That's why I got out of the army. And this was about 10 years ago. And I was back then looking at all, I used to be, still am, love going down rabbit holes, finding conspiracy theories and pretending I know everything about everything. But looking into cannabis and fasting and a whole bunch of different diets, because nutrition is kind of my thing. And a lot of them, you're right, the 10-year mark's about from where some most likely highly intelligent, slightly nutcase person comes up with a theory, test it on himself or someone they know, write a blog about it and pretend that they've just cured everything on the planet. It takes about 10 years. And unfortunately, a lot of those guys that do have accurate kind of information, they get written off as kind of quacks. But it takes about 10 years before people far more intelligent put it through the right process and find ways to make it work. And like fasting was one of those things. And back then they were telling people that if you fast, you cure anything. And I mean, the reality, I think it does definitely make your immune system a lot healthier. But now when you're getting people up the high end of the research spectrum going, it's not one or the other. There's a combination of both. We can start to merge all this stuff together and we're going to have some good results. But it's going to be another 5 or so years before it's mainstream kind of all oncologists using the same method.
Yeah, well, the big one that's come in to oncology in Australia is Australia as of 2018. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's 2018 is the first country in the world to prescribe exercise for cancer patients. That it fucking prescribed. It's not a recommendation. That they've seen the benefits of exercising with any cancer treatment, any cancer in general, is so fucking good. And there's a really big articles on it, but it's like, if it was a pill, it would be on the PBS tomorrow. But it's something you actually have to go out and do. Now, if you go to the Cancer Council has for free with anyone, is to see like a exercise physiologist or whatever it fucking is, and like a gym you can go to, and all this stuff, and it's free. And exercise is one of those overlooked things in, there's, I guess there's a bit of a triangle of cancer treatment. That there are tumours that are going to kill you no matter what. There are tumours you're going to live through no matter what, and there's ones you can increase your life expectancy with. And I guess your treatments go into that too. That there are things that may do somewhat, but it's like, is it enough that you're going to bother doing it? Say you're, say keto dieting, and this isn't a good example, but say if a doctor said to you, yeah, you can go keto and it'll help you, but it'll give you 12 more hours over your fucking life expectancy. You might go, fuck that, I'll give up that 12 hours just to smash palmies and cake and shit. There is a limit. You speak to an oncologist, they're like, yeah, look, don't change up too much stuff in your life. The biggest thing with chemotherapy is they're like, we're about to ingest a toxin into you that it will affect everything. We don't want you to change fucking anything. It's like, even if your diet is fucking trash, leave it the same, because at least your body knows where that is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of research will come out in that the space of more dietary requirements and everything for cancer, testing. But probably the big one is even stress. Like your stress levels directly influence your immune system, 100%. And that's probably a big one. I'd say, I've got nothing to back this up, but where your things like marijuana and stuff come in will be to reduce your stress going through those initial diagnosis days, through to treatment, whatever. And if that can make you do a couple more rounds of chemo, then fucking brilliant. Or chemo or whatever other treatment.
Because you were mate, you're training for selection, you're apps in, you're fucking young and fit, right? 10 foot tall, bulletproof, you're about to start chemo. Were you like, chemo makes you a little bit sick prior to doing it? Were you like, I've got this won't be as bad as they make it out? Or like, what was your chemo journey, mate?
My chemo journey was real fucked. In the beginning, it was all right. Like, it was like, well, initially it was 3 months. It was like, you'll do 3 months of chemo. And I'm like, fucking dope. Anyway, like, it wasn't that bad in those 3 months, because I'd do a week on and 3 weeks off to recover. It was that week, I'd have the week on where I couldn't do much, and then half a week after that, and then I could, for 2 weeks, I was on sick leave from work, and I could smash beers with the boys. But then, at that like 6 month mark, I just ended up pretty much in like hospital for like every round, and ended up in ICU for like 2 weeks because I was just that crook. All my veins collapsed in my arms. They had to bring down like the ICU surgeons just to give me a bag of fluid because they couldn't get any sort of IV access anywhere. Like everything had just gone. And then I was just holding on like by my fingertips for that final 6-7 months. Every round was fucked. It's just poison, man. Like it poisoned like because I tried to work out as much as I could. Like in those beginning months, I could do light shit. But then there was a point at which I had to put like a comfy chair between my bedroom and the couch because I couldn't walk from my bed in the morning to make it to the couch. I'd have to walk, get up, walk that 6 meters to a chair, sit there, like maybe have a snooze, like recontemplate my fucking life. Like some fucking like windsocking on a pack march, and then like, try and make it and collapse into the couch. Like, it was one of those things. It was fucking horrific. It poisons you from your fucking toenails through your eyelids to it poisons your whole body. It's not exhaustion like, oh, I'm a bit tired. It's exhaustion. My cells through my whole body are being killed. Any cell that's rapidly dividing is being killed straight away. It's a very, it's a weird, the only way I can really say, it's like the worst hangover of your life every day. Where you're like, this is fucked, but it's not too bad. Then it's the next day and the next day, and it's for 6 months. But it feels like a terrible hangover when you wake up and you're just like, what the fuck's going on? It's like that. And I don't know if I could physically do more. I remember I was in a oncology ward with my mum, and it was like 2 months after chemo, and I'm just sitting there, and someone walks past with like a plastic, pharmaceutical plastic fucking bag, and they had the temozolomide drug, which is what I took in it, and I had like a full physical reaction to the drug. I basically and I'm just sitting there just like this, hanging out. Next thing, I'm like collapsing, throwing up, to just seeing the fucking the bottle that the drug comes in, just because I had that physical reaction to it. And by the last 6 months of it, because mine was an oral tablet I was taking, I had to have it hidden beneath tissue paper, and I'd have to close my eyes and sort of grab it because I couldn't physically see it, because I'd just be fucked. Some people have a really good reaction to it. Some people have a really bad one. What my oncology team was saying basically is everyone feels the same on chemo to some degree, but it's where they're used to living. So if you're 60 years old and not fit, you smoke and do whatever, you sort of feel here normally, and then you drop down to here with chemo. If you're a 20-year-old man who works out and does all this shit, you feel that drop of how you feel is so much to where you can't walk 10 meters without one of the parents guiding you. It's just such a weird thing, and it just killed my brain. I can't remember shit other than feeling real bad. But yeah, it was fun times. It's fucking heaps fun. For 13 fucking months, plus 6 months after it.
Have you kept?
Sorry, I was going to say, what the memory loss is that still a thing, or was that just while you were going through it?
No, it's sort of a lifelong thing. They call it chemo brain, just because things are so affected by the drug. I'm a lot better than I used to be, or I'm just more fucking. I just forget about it more. But your brain, it's like. It's just like having a shitty computer compared to a really good one. It's just slow. Everything's slow. And I couldn't focus on two things at once. So if I was watching TV, but there was a lawnmower outside, my brain physically couldn't do it. So I'd have to turn the TV off. And by the end of it, I had to sit in a dark room, silent, dead silent, because my brain didn't have the fucking kilobyte capacity to process anything but dark light and nothing. It was just I was running that low. And probably the biggest thing was I couldn't hold a conversation because I'd just forget where I was. And that still happens a little bit, but not as bad as it used to. But I remember sitting at a dinner with some of my closest friends, people I'd known for fucking years, and couldn't remember anyone's name. I'm sitting there I recognise that person, but I could not tell you who the fuck that is. Not a hope in the world. And that's pretty embarrassing, asking someone oh, who's that? And it's that's fucking Jess. You've known her for 10 years. You introduced me to her. Well, that's one of the boys. Yeah, really weird feeling.
Where's your coming out of that? Did you have coping mechanisms that people can put in a day-to-day life? Learn a little. I know no one's going through chemo, but you're at the extreme of life is at the absolute worst it can be. Is there stuff and tools that you could give people that you learn and things that you want to fuck, I wish I didn't do that? Yeah,
look, there's an element of hanging on. There's an element of you just have to hang on until it finishes, and it will finish. You just fucking hang on, because this shit comes and goes, and I always think back to say if you're doing a hard fucking course in the army or whatever, where it's well, I know these pricks have to feed me 3 times a day, and this PT session's fucked, but I know Brecky's got to come before the mess closes at 9. And it was a bit like that with chemo. It was look, I know it's fucked, but there's an element of that. You can only give me this for so many rounds, and then I have to have a break. And an element of accomplishment. The last round, I was 3 because I did 5 sessions in each round. And I was if I just didn't take the last 2 rounds, it probably wouldn't make any difference. But but I didn't finish it. Set that you're actually going to finish it as well. Even if it's shit, at least give yourself the option to finish. And another thing in it, I guess, is that you aren't the center of the fucking universe. Like, I remember lying inside for weeks, like weeks and weeks, just on my couch. My couch is like a permanent indent from where I was just fucked up there. I should get a new one, but like, it felt weird to me that every Thursday morning the guy'd come and get my bin and leave, and it was sort of like, so many things in the world run on autopilot that don't influence you, and they don't give a fuck about you. The sun comes up and down every day, and it doesn't matter if I was, some fucking warlord or some fucking shit cunt or doing chemo. That shit just happens without me existing. And that was a weird realization, especially with the bin man turning up every Thursday to grab my shit and leave. He didn't give a fuck. He didn't know what was going on. And it was sort of like, fuck, I'm not the center of the universe. I'm just going through a bit of a shit time. The world doesn't revolve around me, even if it gets really shit. And on the flip side, even if it gets really good, it still doesn't matter. He still doesn't give a shit. And that was sort of a grounding of like, yeah, look, this is just something I'm going through. It has to end. I can pull the pin on this if I want to as well. But there's a big element of just hanging on. Even if it's hanging on by your fucking fingernails. It's an element of you just got to get through it.
I think that's fucking massive, isn't it? The snowflake. Well, it's coined as a snowflake method, like these days, isn't it? The world doesn't revolve around you, and there's dudes. I mean, relationship breakdowns, PTSD. When you get in the limelight so much, and then you're out of it, I think that is a massive lesson, isn't it? That the world does not revolve around you.
Yeah, it's been the best sort of realism check I've ever had. I say to a lot of people that cancer's the best and worst thing that's ever happened to me. Other than the dying thing, it's the best thing ever, because it's given me such a reality check on, life and death and everything in between. That it's, something that is, so precious, but to not put up with some of the bullshit. It's been a really weird, check on resilience and what matters. And you see a lot of people just get caught up in shit that they can walk away from. I remember saying to some people, and I was a lot more of a fucking savage, like when I was first diagnosed, because I was just angry about shit. Like, it felt so unfair. Rather than just being dealt a shit hand that is no one's fault, I almost was looking for people to fucking blame in this. And saying to people about mental health, cunt, if your work is that bad, you're going to fucking kill yourself. Walk out. And I don't give a shit what job you're in. If you're in the army and you are going to fucking kill yourself, walk into BHQ, walk into the CEO's office and you say, this is fuck, I'm going to kill myself if I'm still here, get in the car and fucking leave. Or if you're in a relationship that is that shit, it's fucking killing you, fucking leave. And I used to be, if I could walk away from a fucking tumour, I fucking would. I'm doing everything in my power to get rid of it out of my fucking head. If you're bitching and moaning to me about this problem that you can physically walk away from, fucking don't. You're a cunt. Now, of course, I've changed up my mindset a lot more because I realise that's, not the healthiest way of going about it. But there's an element of truth still in it, amongst the other bullshit I say. But there's an element of, if you need to change shit in your life that's making you upset, fucking do it.
Mate, winding back a bit, we're talking about fitness now being prescribed as a you didn't say treatment pathway, I forget what you said, but it's now being prescribed to people. Diet's a big part of health, regardless of what illness we're talking about. We love healthy routine. Mate, what's your day-to-day? What's your fitness, nutrition, kind of, what's your routine?
Oh, smashing. Well, it's changing a lot now with, getting out of the army. But it was a big comeback, I guess, into fitness off chemo. It was very, very hard. With all your organs are fucked. Your bone density's on fucking low. Your lung capacity's dropped to shit, and you've lived a sedentary lifestyle for 15 weeks. And when I say sedentary, it's not even walking, into the shops. You're sitting on the couch. Not good. So it was a very slow comeback. But now, like these days, I try to work out 5-6 times a week. I'm still nowhere near what I used to be. To be honest, I don't think I could ever get back there either. I just don't. There's certain things where I'm like, oh, I should progress faster than that. But I'm like, well, and I have a lot of people like, you have no idea what your body's gone through. Like, you've probably got lasting shit that just, because my stomach is still fucked. because it ruined my stomach, the chemo, and it's never ever been even close. But I use exercise as much as a coping mechanism as a health thing to stay fit. Like I enjoy the shit out of working out, and like I enjoy the shit out of doing PT with the boys at work. That was one of the biggest things, going back to doing, morning 7:30 fucking PT with the lads, even if I was the last guy by a mile because I was all fucked up. It's still such an important thing. So that meant a lot. And even now, I still, for the last couple of months, people have been calling me crazy on social media because I've been out doing pack marches with some of the boys and whatever. So you're getting out, why are you doing that? But it's something familiar to me. It's something that, there's an element of I'm still able to get out and do this. It's not as bad as I think. Eventually my tumour will come out. The first signs will be neurological issues. I'll start losing functionality in my right side particularly. And it's like, fuck, well, I better do it while I can. I better do all this shit. So I'm still keen into, get signed onto the base and do some of the stomps with the lads and do some shit. My exercise routine's no fucking, no fantastic bloody thing, but, I'm in the gym. I do what I can. It's a level of fun and work at the same time. I still like do stuff that I enjoy, whether that be having a beer with the boys or, having a palmy on my last day. But then there's also that element of, I'll do a gym workout because I enjoy it.
Tires?
Yeah, flipping fucking tires everywhere. And that's the thing. It's shit that I've become known for that, because now it's like everything is just like, Willie's the reason we're fucking doing this, you prick. Like I'll get photos like every day of boys, no matter what unit, if they're flipping a tire, like, you're the reason we're doing this, you arsehole. Like taking the piss, like, damn it, like, you got me.
So your purpose now moving forward, going through that shit place where you were, when you decided you're like, you know what, I can sit here and wallow in it, or I can get behind a cause and fucking fight this fucking thing, and my purpose is now.
Well, like, my purpose has changed a lot. Like, originally as a young digger, everything was army related, and for a long time it was selection related. And then, I lost all my purpose with the tumour, and then it became the fundraising exposure for cancer, which, massive purpose of my life still sits there. I guess my purpose now is, there's an element of like sailing a ship with a hole in it and seeing how far we can fucking go. And that's more like my purpose now, if this sort of makes sense, I guess, is to see how far someone with my diagnosis and my prognosis and whatever can fucking push it. And I guess in that element of, like in my Instagram bio, it says like redefining terminal illness. I want people to have a different outlook on, if you're watching a movie and the bad guy has a fucking brain tumour, you're like, oh, that cunt's fucked, he's dying. I want that to sort of not be the case. And if there's an element too of, awareness and fundraising and shit in that, then that's even better. But I guess my purpose now is to sort of see how far I can push it in however long I've got left. It's going to really trip me up, though, if I live for like another 60 years, because I'll just be broke as fuck. Like, the boys at work keep telling me, it's like, Willie's going to get cancer and die of AIDS. It's going to be fucked.
Because we don't know when it's going to knock you off, right? So I was going to say, hey man, it'd be great to get you back on the podcast, but you could be dead in the next one, or
fucking know.
I could be here for 20 years.
It could be, you said in the beginning it's exclusive. This could be fucking heaps exclusive. That was like all that artwork I was going to release for charity, but I sort of backed off it because I'm like, oh, I might look like a dick. I was going to do like just like shitty A4 like dick drawings and sign them and sell them for like $10 a piece, but I only have like 10 of them for sale. And then be like, all their art goes up when they die. You fucking cashing in. It could be 5 years and you sell it for 10 grand. But yeah, it's one of those things. I know I tripped up my OC because when I came back off chemo, pretty much no one in the company, it was back in Bravo company, no one in the company fucking knew me. And the OC pulls me out the front and is like, yeah, this is Willie. He's going through some shit. Willie, do you want to say a few words? And I stand up there. I'm like, yeah, thanks, sir. Lads probably don't know me. I'm Willie. I've got brain cancer. The good thing is having me in Bravo Company might mean we get our first kill since the trips in 2012. And he's just, the OC's just looking at me like, you fucking asshole. I've done this to bring you in. And you've just gone full lad mode. But, someone's going to do it.
First domestic kill for the RAR.
Fucking oath. I keep telling the boys they're going to bury me in the CTA and have to do like fucking salute me on the way around as they're stomping every day.
Mate, they'll be pissed if they thank fuck you got out of the army. They have to wear polys now, do they?
Oh yeah, they'd have to.
So what do you do? What's going on with your charity, with your fundraising? Like, what's going on with you in the next sort of 12 months?
Oh, well, a lot of it will depend on this virus you might have heard of going around. I'm not sure if you guys have got it. Where you are, I'm not sure if it's reached that part of Australia yet. But a lot of it will depend on that, because my initial goal was to get out of the army and travel. And, everything's sort of gone to shit. So that is really in the works of what I do, because it was always international travel, so now it'll have to sort of change domestic. But I want to go down the path of like my YouTube and the media shit down there, sort of down that path. And eventually what I want to do really is travel into, less fortunate countries and, sort of follow my journey through that. And that's as much a personal thing, like, that has, there's always, like, everything I do will always have an element of fundraising and whatever in it. But it's just a personal thing. I want to go through and film and take photos in, anywhere. My life goal now is to experience shit, and I want to experience a lifetime worth of stuff in, however long I've got. And that goes into not just good either. It goes into good and bad. I want to experience, good and bad and right and wrong and all this shit. And I think traveling is one of the best ways to expose yourself to that, especially, in a lot of countries you normally wouldn't go to. Now, COVID's fucking you a bit there.
What is it, COVID? Everyone's like, I'm not going to get it. I'm not immunocompromised. But if you get it, are you brown bread or what?
I don't know. I know I could have definitely milked a bit more time off work with it. I fucking should have too. But I'm actually not sure. There's, I think they're looking at bigger picture shit rather than some random dude with a tumour. But I probably wouldn't want to get it either. I don't know, but I'll keep my mask on.
Mate, back to travel. I was tracking your stuff. I don't know. I was a year or two back now. You went to the States, hanging out with Fruity Rudy. How was he?
That was the fucking loosest trip. That was the loosest fucking trip ever. Because I flew there, like, my mate rang me, like, Friday afternoon and was like, hey, you're coming to the States with me tomorrow for SOFIC, that Special Operations Force International Conference. And I'm like, sure. I was like, there's no way I can. And I was sort of like, hey, man, like, as much as I wanted to go, I sort of had that element of that I didn't. And I was like, nah, bro, like, I can't get the time off work. And he's like, is your OC still such and such? I'm like, yeah. He's like, wait out. And he texts me back, like, hey, I've spoken to your OC. Put leave through, he'll approve it on Monday. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like, damn it. So I'm over there just, like any military conference is all serious work and no play. And then, we flew into LA and we had a mutual friend who was an ex-serving member in Australia hook us up. And he's a legend. He's just like in Gen Kill. Big boy, lovely guy.
Fit as fuck.
Fit as fuck. I think there's some extra help on the fitness side through some fucking prescribed stuff. But he's such a fucking weapon. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah, I feel the boys that are still in Sydney. There's a link there somewhere. I think a few of them. Obviously, they go on exchange for SF trips overseas to America. But I was telling one of the girls in our office about that. Is it Force Blue or Blue Force? One of the two.
Force, yeah, it's the scuba diving rebuilding the reef
Yeah, cleaning up the reefs and stuff. And she's like, if we have to partner, if we've got to find a way to partner with her, 'cause she's a massive greenie, wants to clean up the entire planet. And now, of course, that's our problem. She dictates what we get to do. So we're gonna have to find a way to do some ocean cleaning with them down the track, I think.
Yeah, we looked at we actually looked a lot into that about having like a chapter move into Australia and what the requirements would be on it. That was a while back now, but yeah, we did have a fair bit to look. But it's a good program. It's a good and they sort of do it in a militarized way of having like a mission profile sort of element to it. Of we're going and doing this, and it has that sort of all your steps of an operation through it, and actually having an end goal to achieve, not just hey, we're going to go down to the RSL, have a beer, and complain about our problems.
Yeah, mate, 100%. That there's a lot of potential for that, fixing the reef up North Queensland.
Oh yeah, of course. No, absolutely.
What do you so what's your stuff you're doing? I mean, are you reading books? Are you absorbing content at the moment?
Yeah, look, I've always been a reader, somewhat. I'm sort of trying to not absorb anything on social media at the moment, which is weird for someone who has a large following, just because it's so fucking it's terrible. Everything on social media, just yeah. But I guess as far as
Are we talking in relation to the elections or just life and social media?
Just life. Like I'm sort of like, can we get back to when Instagram was posting photos of your food and your ass? Like, why the fuck are we talking about shit that doesn't influence you? Two, you have fucking no idea on it. Like that, people ask me, like, you're going into politics. I'm like, fuck that. I'm way too honest. And like parliamentary privilege sounds awesome, but like I've been in the lunchroom with the boys, and that wouldn't go well. Like there's an element of like I try and absorb off. I really try and absorb off my mates. Like I have a lot of friends who have transitioned well before me, and a lot of friends who are doing some fantastic shit. So I've really been trying to just absorb, mistakes they've made so I don't make them, which I'll make every single one of them. But as far as absorbing, and it's been a lot of like, I guess, inner searching of me, like where, now that I'm out, where do my passions lie? What do I give a shit about? And going from there. But traditional media, I don't try not to absorb any of it because I want to do my own thing without, too much influence from people that are fucking flogs.
Good call, mate. There's a lot of people out there that should be listening to that one.
Yeah.
Where do we go, mate? Where are people going to come and find your stuff? Where can they, your social handles, your fundraising, how do they support you and how do they support the cause you're doing, man?
Yeah, so if you go onto Scott Morrison's page, I'm on there. So pretty much my handle for fucking everything is Willie beating cancer. Like it'll pop up, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. That's primarily where I am. My most active is Instagram as far as like replying to messages and whatever. Like I reply to every message I ever get. I reply to there. But if that's the only one I can fucking man the tower on all the time. But then I guess my most content or finding out about cancer and everything is on my YouTube. But both of those, I really implore people to reach out if they have any questions or want to know more or whatever, and I'll shoot them in the right direction or, just like your message and leave.
The ScoMo quoted you in the Australia Day. It was the Queen's Honours Awards Day, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. They did it. I was quoted on Anzac Day, which was the initial thing. Is his speechwriter rang me just to find out some shit about resilience. He rang me, and then like 2 days later, he's like, I get a text off his number going, "Hey, the boss is ringing you today." And I'm like, "Who the fuck's the boss?" Like thinking it's just some subby. Next thing, it's like the boss. And then went through the whole Order of Australia thing. But it's one of those things. It's I think it means a lot more to a lot more people than it means to me. Recognition for the work you've done is, no one's going to say it's great. But at the end of the day, it's I don't see myself on any pedestal at all to that amount. At the end of the day, it's me doing my thing, and I wouldn't do it differently. I've spoken a lot about tomorrow. If there was a silver bullet cure for my tumour, and I got, cured, and I'm fine, I would still have a vast element of my life that was devoted to, cancer research, mental health, and veterans. And particularly on the cancer and mental health thing, just because I've seen the effect it has. And it was like, and I was so, I didn't even know it really existed until, I had my own diagnosis. And, I'd still, even if I was silver bullet cured, I'd still have elements in there. And it's not that I'm doing anything special. It's just, I'm just doing my thing. And I say that to as many people as I can, because it's not like, people think that my words mean more because I've got 10,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, it doesn't mean fucking nothing. My word is not better than anyone else's. I'm not some smart fucking, like, why when Cardi B writes something, is it like, oh, she doesn't like President whoever? It's like, how the fuck is that person have any more insight than I do? And people start like the fucking Scott Morrison quoted me. And I'm like, Jesus. Like, don't quote me.
Yeah, what was your quote? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Not even like quote. I just said it in conversation. That's it. The funniest thing to come out of that, the fucking best bit, was he called me on Anzac morning in front of like the whole country at the dawn service. Instead of Corporate Williams, he called me Corporate Williams, and I've never lived it down. Like, it doesn't matter who it is that works. Oh, g'day, corporate, there you go. And it's like, fuck. But no, it's all good. He's a lovely guy. Like, no matter anyone's political views, aside, he's a fucking fantastic guy. And supports, me, both on a personal and whatever level. I got a handwritten Christmas card off him this year just to see that everything's going well. And I think that is something I'd like to put down, that is the support diggers have. I know they may feel like, there's a lot working against them, but media will always pick up poor traction against the Defence Force. The media is never going to pick up that the Prime Minister of the country has written some lowly fucking dig down at the 7th Battalion a letter to see how he's going because he's going through a hard time. But that's not going to trend. And that's probably one of the big things is, I've had a lot of exposure to those higher ranks of government and like army. And at the end of the day, there may be a few bad apples, but the boys are still there for the boys. And I remember one of the commanders basically saying to me, Willie, the only difference between you and me is our rank slide and I wear a fucking pip and a crown and whatever. But the other 99% of our uniform is the exact same. I'm not better or worse than you, and vice versa. I'm just at a different point in my career. And that's, I like to think that the diggers have the support that I had all up and down the chain in the public eye as well.
Mate, 100%. We had the privilege of meeting the PM, and we went in closed doors, mate. He kicked out the media, and he said, there was stuff going on about one of the big things in the veteran space at the time, and he's like, so what's going on? What am I doing? What are we doing? What's your take on it? And without political stuff aside, left or right, whatever it is, the guy is a genuine. I think we can pick up bullshit when you're diggers. You can pick up when your boss is bullshitting about whether it's the length of a patrol or weight, whatever. I think we all as soldiers have a high level of emotional intelligence. And the dude is a genuine fucking nice guy, mate. And he gives a shit. And that's the support that I wish would get out more, as opposed to, people grandstanding and Instagram models and senators just trying to bash people for their own agenda.
Oh, absolutely. But the veteran community in itself has a lot to answer for too. There's a lot of toxic piss in our own community that it's like, fuck off, mate. We know you're full of shit. And I think, there's one of the biggest things that I'll miss, and I don't know how to remedy this, is the level of like grounding I got every single day off the boys. As like if I put up a post on Instagram and I was a bit cringe on it, I'd just get ripped. And it was like the best thing ever, because I'd have to like review everything in my mind of like, okay, how will this be seen and this and that. It's like the best echo chamber in the world. And it's like, once you don't have that echo chamber, next thing you're doing all this other shit, and everyone's like, what the fuck? You're not for the boys, mate. Like, as soon as I spoke to the PM, the first thing that happened was I walked back, it was like the live chat, and then I walked straight back to the Bravo company. Where'd you ask for an EKO, you jack cunt? That was the first thing said to me. And it's such a good, like, opposite to an echo chamber of, like, just the ultimate, like, desensitization to everything. And it's fucking awesome. So I don't know how to do that. I might have to make a big like group inbox, put up the thing, like, what do you think of this? Let everyone rip me, and then see if I still want to do it.
Mate, I think it's not bad.
Oh, that's how it should work. It should just be a platoon of diggers, just in there.
A common sense section in Canberra, mate. So every time they've got to push through a policy, they're like, "What do you reckon?" Like, that is fucked.
Well, that's what I've always thought should happen up in Army HQ. Is you have an unnamed, ununiformed digger out of one of the battalions there. And he's only there for like a month, so I don't give a shit. No one knows his name, he's just not in uniform, and everything has to run by him. So it's like, hey, we're thinking of implementing this. And there's just some guy at the back, and you go, that's fucking shit. And like, he's just like the offsider to like the chief of defence, and it's just got to go through a dig as well.
Mate,
Not a bad idea.
we're going to change the world, mate.
You got to have a solution, but you can't just say it's a shit idea. You got to have a better one.
Yeah. No. It's just through the diggers tribunal.
Well, mate, fuck. Thanks for coming on, dude. And I think our audience would have got a fucking lot out of that podcast in a dude who has got the literal shit end of the stick and polished it and turned it into a drive and a purpose in life, mate. And it's inspirational to you coming on and even listening to you, mate, from my end. So I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
No, boys, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm glad we could sort it out in like a 16-hour turnaround.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, I was in it, mate. It was close. We were close. Cheers, brother. We'll chat to you soon anyway, mate.